Hey beauties, welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking all about makeup brushes. I have written down every question I could possibly get onto the front and back of this piece of paper. I'm going to get into all of it, so this might be a little bit of a long video. If I do not answer something that you are wanting to know, just ask me down below and I'll try to get to you. If I see a bunch of questions or you guys want part 2 to this, just let me know. I can also do that as well. Now, I know you guys are going to be seeing my thumb through this and wondering, what happened? So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. I decided to try and chop off my thumb yesterday. It's not actually what happened. We all know. Puffin sent me a gift yesterday and I was having a slightly off day and I got really excited about this box and I picked up the one and only knife that I tell all the kids you're not allowed to touch. It's too sharp, whatever. I had just finished using it for like cutting cucumbers or something, so it was there. And I used it to open the box and I'm a goober, I wasn't paying attention, and yes, I tried to cut off my thumb. So that is why that's there. Now let's go ahead and jump into the video. The very first question is, what is needed for a beginner set? Now, whether or not you want to go high-end, middle ground, or affordable is up to you. I'm just going to show you the shapes and what I would consider to be just a very good standard what you need to start out your collection. So I'm going to start off with eyes. I basically believe that you need at least these 3 shape brushes. If you have these 3, you are set to go. You can do pretty much anything. And that is a blending brush that works well in your crease. So keep in mind the shape of your eye. If you have a very large eye, you can pretty much use whatever size blending brush you want. If you have a hooded eye or you have a very small eye, something like the MAC 221 or the Wayne Goss number 19, I believe. Something smaller along this line rather than this line would be better for you, but definitely a blending brush like that for the crease and transition area, as well as something to pack on the lid. Now, I would go for something more like this. This is a natural hair brush, but you can use either synthetic or natural hair, but it is a slimmer brush that you can use to pack on mattes or metallics. So this right here is the ESEM W21. The MAC 242 is one of my personal favorites, but they have changed it and I've heard bad things, but I haven't used it before, so I'm not sure. But just something to be able to pack on the lid is definitely a necessity. And then something for the lower lash line. This one right here is the 780 pencil brush from Delium Tools, synthetic. Again, I have high-end versions of this, and then this is a little bit more affordable. It's up to you, but just some type of pencil brush to be able to go right underneath the lower lash line, and then you would also be able to use this on the inner corner or if you needed to add a little definition to the outer crease. And then this brush would also be able to use right at your brow arch. So pretty much these are the 3 types of brushes that I think that you would need for a beginner's set. So 3 brushes for the eyes and then also 3 brushes for the face. Now maybe 4 if you don't want to use one for dual purpose. So something like this for your blush and bronzer. So you could get 2 different ones. I like this one. This is the 310 from Linda Hallberg Cosmetics, or this one from Royal and Langnickel. This is the BOM 36. So for me, I would have to have both of these. I would use this one for my bronzer and then I would use this one for my blush, but it is completely possible to use this for both as long as you're just taking a tissue in between and making sure you're not getting like your blush too muddy if you're not going to wash it a lot. So at least once a week if you are using it for the same thing, but just taking a tissue usually will get that excess product out. And then you're going to need something for powder. I love this one right here. This is a large powder brush from Sonia. Again, size is up to you. You could use something along this line if you want something like that. You could use something that is tapered, but you would need some type of powder brush for all over. And then also highlight. I definitely think that you need something to highlight. This one is the Linda Hallberg 306. You could also use this to set underneath your eye. So it's a great brush for dual. So if you needed powder underneath your eyes or highlight, this will do both. Or you could do something fluffier like the Anastasia A23, or also even the Wayne Goss number 02. I don't love this one for highlighter personally, but some people do. Like Kelsey loves this for highlighter, but it just doesn't work for me. But just something along those lines. So really 6 brushes is what I would feel a beginner would need. That's like all you need. What is the difference between affordable, mid-range, and luxury brushes? So most of the time the difference is materials. So say this guy right here, this is a synthetic brush from Sonia. This was $22, so I would say this is more along the affordable mid-range, like right in between, and this is synthetic hairs. It's gonna be different with each brand. I feel like sometimes you get really quality things for your price, like Sonia line, the Delium Tools line. They are really great quality, but you're not suffering from the price. Now, something like, I know a lot of people love these, but they're not my favorite. The LUXE or LUXE Beauty, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but you can kind of see like how flimsy this brush is, and that's not for all of them. There is exceptions in the line that are great. I actually liked this one for a little while. This is the LUXE 237 for underneath the eyes, but it just does not compare to the brushes that I use on a daily basis. So let me show you these two for an example. As you can see, this brush right here is synthetic, and it ends up spraying out quite a bit. And the same thing with the updated synthetic MAC 221. This is one of those that I would say it's not worth the price. It's mid-range, but it's definitely not worth the price. I would suggest the LUXE or LUXE, whatever, over the new MAC 221. But the difference is, the quality of this is goat hair. These are synthetic, and you're going to pay more for goat hair, and whether they're handcrafted or if they are machine made. So all of those make a difference in the price of a brush, which brings me to high luxury end. So I don't consider Wayne Goss, Sonia G to be out of that mid-range, because if you consider each price of the individual brush, they're not usually too bad, especially the eye brushes. Some of the face brushes can be higher price tag, but usually the face brushes run along the same lines of what MAC did whenever they were natural, and well, now still when they're synthetic. But it's not always best to go with the luxury side. For instance, I want to talk about Tom Ford. Tom Ford was definitely worth the price tag to me whenever they were natural hair. So for me, if I was going to buy anything luxury or high end, I think it's better to find the things that are natural hair, things that are handmade, and that you're really going to get your money and longevity out of. I've had some of my luxury brushes the longest because they are really made quite well. Now some of these brushes are synthetic, and I don't think that they are worth it. So it kind of depends on the brand. Usually the difference between a high-end brush and a luxury brush is going to be the name behind it. So you can definitely find things in the high-end category that are going to be just as good, if not better, than some of the luxury ones, but it's completely personal preference. Now I want to show you the difference between like these two right here. This is the Wayne Goss number 00. It was a holiday brush for a while. I think it was limited edition. This has much more stiffness. It is natural hair. These were handcrafted, and this guy right here, which I love, don't get me wrong, this is the Delium 974. I use this almost every single day to apply my blush. These are technically the same style brushes. Now, if you can see, this one is holding its shape just a little bit better. It comes to that tip, and it's been washed several times, and it's softer, and it puts on powder in a different way. Whereas this one is synthetic. You can see if I hold it from this angle, it's a little misshapen, but I don't care. I love this brush, so I'm not dogging it by any means. I'm just showing you the difference. This one, handcrafted. This one, not handcrafted. This one is synthetic. This one is natural goat hair. So you're gonna find those type of differences whenever you're looking at the difference in price and quality. I also wanted to mention that the natural hair brush is going to apply and blend out anything that's like bronzer or blush much better than what the synthetic version is going to do in this case. I like to use the Delium Tools one to apply powder, and I have no issues with that. But if I was going to go in with a bronzer or blush, the natural hair version is going to do a better job of really blending it out. What are the differences in synthetic, blue squirrel, sable, goat hair? What are they used for? Here's two brushes from the same manufacturer. So this is Wayne Goss for both of them. This one is blue squirrel, this one is goat. And then this is a synthetic version. And then I also have a mix right here. So I'm gonna tell you the difference between the goat and the squirrel. So all goat is not created equal. And you will find that definitely with, okay, I want to say Smith brushes. They're just not as soft and as good quality as the Wayne Goss brushes. So they are not all created equal. It definitely depends on, again, are they handmade? What's the quality of the goat? There's a lot of different things that go into it. So just because you have a goat brush does not mean that it is good quality. It just means that you have a goat brush. So Wayne Goss goat brushes are amazing and highly recommend them. And then this is the blue squirrel. So as you can see, this one is more fluffed out and this one is kind of more packed in. It's a lot smoother. This is a lot softer. A lot softer. This one is going to be your workhorse, and this one is going to be something that just kind of really softly applies product to the lid. If you do not want to move the lid around too much, like this one you can almost grab and like move your eye around, or this one you can just, it's so soft, but it does not pick up product the same. So this one is going to pick up and move around product really easily. I can use this with my Pat McGrath shadows, the matte ones, and get it to move around like nobody's business. Whereas if I were to use the blue squirrel, it is a natural hair brush, but it's so soft that it would be hard for me to really get a blend out of it. I like using this type of brush with a softer formula, something like the Anastasia shadows, especially like Subculture. If you wanted to use a brush that didn't pick up too much product because you got a lot of dust in the pan, picking something like this is not going to pick up too much product, and it also will blend it out without dispersing it everywhere. I also really love this for putting powder underneath the eyes, blue squirrel that is, because it is so soft that it doesn't pick up too much product and it really can just kind of get it into the skin. There's just something about blue squirrel that is so nice, but it's not a workhorse brush. I feel like mature skin would really love that on the eyes to blend things out because it's not going to tug at your eyes too much. Now, like a goat and synthetic blend, again, this is a workhorse brush. This is from Zoeva. It's the 227. It's the Luxe version. So they have different lines, and this is the Luxe version. I am obsessed with this brush. It's one of my favorites to blend on the inner, like the crease and the transition area. But then we also have this one from Delium, and this is the 785, and this is a synthetic brush. This one is kind of like the blue squirrel, so it is not going to pick up and lay down product the same. It is going to, I really like it again for underneath my eyes, and then for the softer shadows. I would never use this brush to pick up, say, my Pat McGrath mattes that are a stiffer formula, they're not powdery, and try to blend it out with this brush because you are going to have a hard time. It's just too soft to do so. I hate this question so much. I get it so often. Wayne Goss or Sonia G? Okay, these are night and day brushes, you guys. I cannot compare the two. Let me get my brushes and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, so the reason why I feel like you can't compare these is mainly because of the shapes. So, oh gosh, this is going to be so hard for me to explain. It's hard to explain to myself. Like, I know what I'm thinking in my head, but I can't get it out. All right, so this is the Wayne Goss number 18, and what I would say is the equivalent would be the Sonia G Worker 3. This is densely packed, very soft, but densely packed. This one is, it's densely packed, but it fluffs out. So I can blend out a crease and everything with this, whereas this one, I feel like I can actually just like add color all over the lid. It's just too densely packed. I don't have a brush like this one in the Sonia G. Now you have brushes like, say, the new Crease 2, which I love, and then the Crease Pro, and then something from Goss, which is the 17. Again, I gotta say that the 17 is just like a little bit softer, more flexible than these. They're just a little bit more stiff, and it's not a bad thing at all. Like if I wanna keep product in one specific place, these are going to blend but keep it there easier than this one. Like this one will spread the product just a little bit more, but both are fabulous. Like I could not choose between the Pro set from Sonia G, which is my favorite set, or the Goss I set, which is my favorite set from him. They're just two different styles. And then here's another example. This is the 16. As you can see, it's just fluffier. All of the Sonia G, even after washing them, they come back to a very, very precise shape. And they don't fray after that. Like they just stay there. And I've washed these several times, and that's what I love about them. Like this is the Builder Pro, and using this on the lid is amazing because it doesn't start to fray out. I can't tell you, do you want to have something that really blends things out, or do you want specific product placement? It's hard to say. I really feel like you cannot compare the two because the shapes are so different. I would think of Sonia G as stiffer, firmer blending, and Goss fluffier blending. So yeah, I couldn't tell you which one I would pick. I don't know. I could not tell you. How do I take care of my brushes? So I wash my eye brushes, whether they're Goss or these Delium tools. It doesn't matter which brand. I am going to use this guy. This is the Beauty Blender Solid. I have the large one. It is all kinds of some funky in my bathroom, so I'm not going to bring that out. I brought out a new one of these for you guys, but it does not matter what it is. Any of my eye brushes get washed after every single use. My face brushes, I wash like every 2 weeks or so, or when I feel like they need it. So in here, I have this little pink guy. You can use this to help clean your brushes. I don't do that. And then you have your solid. It smells so good. I use this. I will take, basically, I take this out. I put it in my hands. I get the brush slightly wet. You never want to hold your brush up like this in the water because you don't want water down in here. That's where you're going to start having your brush start shedding. It's going to start falling apart. You don't want that to happen. So always have it kind of pointed down or like at an angle. I get the brush wet first. I go to town and then I set it aside and I get all of my brushes with soap on it first. And then I take my hand and I go like this, and I really cleanse it out and I rinse it in running water. When I am done with that, I lay them all flat to dry. I'm going to show you a picture. I like to put them on my bathtub because it has like this little ledge, so there's air on both sides of the brush so it can really dry and not get misshapen or anything like that. But I only use that or baby shampoo, but really I have kind of stuck with this. I have also used Dove soap before, but for the majority of the time I really just like the Beauty Blender Solid because it really gets everything out and it doesn't damage my brushes. I know that I think Goss does not, they suggest not to wash them that often, but I really haven't had any issues. You guys have seen me using these brushes all the time and they're always clean, and people ask me all the time, why are your brushes so white? I really, really, really wash them. But my face brushes, I don't wash that often. And it's mainly because I change color so much. I don't use the same shadows. If I'm using the same shadows, they will stay in this cup so that I don't keep washing it. Like this is the Tom Ford number 11, and I use this one every day for my nose. So I'm not going to wash this one every day because I use it every day for the same thing. Same for my number 2 from Goss. I use it every day to buff and get some stuff out of my pores. So I'm not going to wash it every single time. But my eye brushes get put in a box, and sometimes I will have 50 at a time that I have to wash. But yeah, I use the solid cleanser. Make sure you do not dunk them in water. Don't let any water get up in the ferrule. Just always have them laying flat. Don't let them come up at an angle or anything, or else you can really ruin your brushes. All-time favorite crease brushes you could not live without. So a lot of these had to be replaced because they used to be all MAC brushes, like the 217 and the 221. Luckily, the 221 got changed or switched for the Goss number 19. Have to have those. Like if I did not have this, which I do, so I use it all the time, but the Goss number 19 is like almost a perfect dupe for it. And then the MAC 217 I actually replaced with the Zoeva 227. I love that brush so much. I love this one from Royal & Langnickel. It's the BOM 44. I am now an affiliate with them, so I have a code down below if you want to use it. All the brushes that I've talked about, though, I have purchased myself. And then new loves are definitely the Pro line from Sonia G, the Crease Pro and the Blender Pro, as well as obviously the Goss number 18 and the Goss number 17. Basically the whole Goss set and all the crease brushes in the Sonia G set, and then also the Royal & Langnickel brush. But my all-time favorites have gotten discontinued, like even the Tom Ford one, the number 13, it's discontinued, so I've had to find new replacements, and these have definitely been my go-tos. I absolutely love them. What do I look for in a bronzer brush? So it doesn't really matter to me if it's synthetic or natural hair. I do prefer natural hair on my face because for blending, I feel like I get a better blend. But I'm just to tell you about my 3 favorite bronzer brushes that I have ever used. This one from Tom Ford, again, you can't get it anymore, but if you found something super fluffy like this that was natural hair, I love this because it doesn't leave a harsh line. It's not a contour, it really just blends everything out. The only reason I don't use this so much anymore is basically because I have to clean out the edges of my hair with a wipe for my bronzer, and if I use this one, it goes even further back and my hair can get stained. So that is why I don't use that one as much. Now I prefer something smaller. So these 2 right here, this is my new go-to. So this is from Royal & Langnickel. I have talked about this to death, and it's a natural hair. It might even be a blend, but I think it's not. Anyway, this is the BOM 36. I call it my mini bronzer Tom Ford bronzer brush because if you can see, it's like the same shape but mini. It's amazing. So this blends like nobody's business. I like to have this type of shape. It can't be too small or too stiff. This is perfect for me. So I like this because it's just enough to where I can blend and get a nice blend out of it. The quality is really nice, and yeah, it just blends nicely. And then this one right here is one I like to use. This is the 126 Luxe Cheek. This works better for stiffer formula. So something like, this is the regular bronzer from Tom Ford. And then we have the Ultimate, which is more of that gelée type of formula. This right here. So depending on the formula, I either like a brush like this for a powder formula or a brush like this for something that is stiffer, because this is going to pick it up a little bit better. As you can see, it is more densely packed and it is a mixture. So it has synthetic and natural hair. Now this does fluff up a little bit more once I've used it, so it looks a little smaller now because it's been freshly washed. But I like this type of brush for any type of formula that is harder to pick up. And also the NARS, what is this called? I don't remember the name of this. It's like some kind of sun washing, I don't know. But this is a stiffer formula. Again, it works better with this brush because it's stiffer than this. So basically, what do I look for? It depends on the formula, but something that's going to pick up the product correctly. And I like smaller fluffier brushes to apply it. Now, if I was using a bronzer that was too pigmented, or I didn't want a lot of pigment on my face because the color was a little off, I would use something like this. And this is from MAC. This is the 135S. I do still like the synthetic version of this, but again, it's just the price thing. But this is going to apply it to your face, blend it out, but without putting on as much pigment. So it really just depends on the type of formula. When I was using the, what was it from MAC? Oh, it was a mineralized skin finish, but it was, I had to use this or else I would look orange. So yeah, that's what I look for. How do I feel about the color switch? For me, I'm not touching that thing. I know a lot of people love that and swear by it, but I'm terrified that over time it would destroy my brushes or wear them down in some way. So I don't personally use it. I have no proof that it will ever damage your brushes, but I just can't help but to think to myself that if you're constantly swirling, especially natural hair, goat brushes, or anything like that, in one of those all the time, I feel like you're going to do some damage. It's just like scraping, you know, constantly. If you've been using anything with your hands all day long over and over, you have small little blisters. And I just think about like your brush kind of starting to become more and more weak and start to break. So I don't do the color switch. Somebody wants to know a packing brush dupe for the MAC 242. The only one that I have found is this one from Esom, and it's the W21. Now this one is a natural hair brush, but it works so well for applying the shadow to the lid, and it has a good shape. It's nice and thin. This is what I would suggest. Suggestions for hooded eyes. So I would definitely suggest having a smaller blending brushes. So definitely try out the Goss line. The blue squirrel line, like the number 6 right here, is really great because it can blend out without it going too far. You can use the Goss number 19, which is like the MAC 221, the number 20 to really get in there. And then I really like this Esom S33. Another great option from Royal & Langnickel is the BOM 46. This line, the gold Omnia line, is natural hair, and if you want the synthetic, I think it's the rose gold, but it's just small enough to get in there and be able to blend without it being just too big. Best brush for stiff powder, and she specifically mentioned the Candle Glow powder from La Mercier. So that is one of those powders that's just, it's pretty stiff, kind of like the different bronzers I was talking about. This brush from Sonia is actually really good at picking up product. It's the large powder brush, but it's not going to apply too much. If you want to really dig in there, this one right here from Zoeva, the LUXE 126, is really going to dig into that product because it's a mixture. Ooh, this would be a good one. This is the Golden Triangle 959. So it's a densely packed brush. That is basically what you want to look for, is something that's denser or maybe just bigger and denser. So this one would be great, the 959, because it's dense, it's flat, and you can really dig in there. I used to use this all the time with the bronzer from NARS. This one's really great. What brushes for different textures? So for metallics and glitters or anything like that, basically I prefer to have a synthetic version, but it doesn't really matter if it's synthetic or if it's natural hair, as long as you have the shape and density right. So obviously the MAC 242, hold on. I am so mad that they have like destroyed their entire line. But this is the absolute best when it comes to applying any type of glitter, metallic, anything that really needs to adhere to the eyelid, any kind of shine. This is your baby. It's great for cut creases, for applying concealer there, because it's so thin, it's just perfect. But again, I said that this was the dupe that I would say for it, the W21. So something small like this that is densely packed, this type of shape is what I would suggest, because on the lid is usually where you're going to be applying this, and this can pick up product better. Whereas if you use something fluffy, you're not going to be laying down the product. It's going to, these type of brushes are going to blend. So going for blending, for like any type of matte shadow, any type of fluffy brush is going to work. The only difference is between the quality of the mattes, the metallics. So if you're using an Anastasia, matte, anything is going to work really. Like the synthetic 785, you can use the blue squirrel, you can use the natural goat, you can use just about anything. But when it comes to like the formula of the Pat McGrath, it's a stiffer formula, you're definitely, I would suggest sticking with a stiffer goat brush like the 18 from Wayne Goss or the 227 from Zoeva, because they are just stiffer and they can move around product better. Let me just show you real quick. So this is the synthetic brush that I absolutely love, the 785. I'm picking up my Pat McGrath palette and the matte shade. So I've got it on my brush and I'm going to blend that on there. So you can see the amount and it getting on. Now let me get one of my other brushes. I'm not going to do something high end because I just used a mid-range brush. I'm going to use another mid-range brush, which is the 227 from Zoeva. Same exact shade. Can you see the difference? I picked up the same exact amount, but the density of the brush and the fibers of the brush make a difference. The goat in this is picking up more, and like I said, this is a mixed brush, so it's synthetic and goat, but it just will blend, whereas this one just does not pick up the same amount of product. So what I would do with this is I would take any kind, like if I wanted to smooth out the edges with a lighter shade, but I didn't want to add too much, but if you can you see that? And this is kind of what like the blue squirrel can do as well. It will add lighter amounts than what a stiffer brush will do. So when I say that a brush makes a difference, it makes a difference. Let's go ahead and show you the metallic too. So the W21, got her on there. Let's just put her right up here. And of course I have no primer or anything like that. Now I'm just going to take the fluffy blending brush and I'm going to apply it. See the difference? And I am like really getting that on. So again, this is unprimed or anything like that, but yeah, brushes make a difference. Best brush for Tom Ford toppers or like the Pat McGrath special shades. Again, the same thing if you have the MAC 242 or this brush from Esom or even your fingers, but yeah, definitely I would suggest that one. I feel like there's another one. The Golden Triangle 773, this one can work pretty well. And the 239 synthetic from MAC, that's nothing like the original 239 because it's synthetic, that can pack on pretty well. And I would suggest using anything that's not slim like the 242 and that Esom brush, using it wet, and as long as it's synthetic will really help to pack it on the lid. Best brushes for cream shadows. So for me, that's what I love the original Sonia G brushes for. So like the Worker 2 and the Builder 2. Like the Builder 2 for packing it on the lid and the Worker 2 for blending it out, because these are so stiff. Like they will move around that product so well, but also pack it on to where you can really see it. These two are amazing for cream shadows. All right, last question for sanitizing brushes. So for me, using the Beauty Blender Solid is perfectly fine for me. I don't do freelance anymore because of my shoulder, so I don't worry about using things like alcohol or this or that. I really strongly suggest not using any kind of brush cleanser with alcohol in it, unless once a month or so you want to really sanitize your brushes. For me, using the Beauty Blender Solid and then that black one with the charcoal in it is perfectly good enough. I have no issues and I'm not breaking out for my brushes or anything like that. But if you need to, you can always spray your brushes with alcohol afterwards. Not every day. Again, please don't do that unless you are a working makeup artist. When I was working, like you can tell my brushes that I used while I was in the field because I was always had my MAC cleanser with me, because the MAC cleanser had alcohol in it. It would really sanitize your brushes. And then there's other ones on the market, but I don't work on other people now, so I don't do that. But just be careful when you're really trying to sanitize your brushes that you're not overdoing it, because especially if you have some of the high-end brushes, you can really tear them apart. All right, and I think that was the last question. I hope that this was helpful. Let me know if you guys need a part 2 or if you have more questions, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.